Welcome to the Smark Foundation podcast. I'm Aaron. This is Adam.
Hello, 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 everyone. How are you? Hope you had a great Thanksgiving. Aaron, how was your Thanksgiving?
My Thanksgiving was pretty good, man. I did have to work, but the fam sent me a bunch of food while I was at work, so I'm still stuffed. How was yours?
Stuff more than the turkey, right?
Oh yeah, easily.
Mine was good too. It was the first time I had Thanksgiving off in forever. I can't even remember the last time that my job gave me the day off. Even if I had worked, the latest I would have had to work was like 4:30. But it was still nice to have the whole day. But most of my brothers were in town with their significant others, so and they're all over the place. The only one who wasn't there was John. He is in Seattle, so
Hmm.
literally all the way on the other side of the country. Being a lawyer. Shout out to John. Uh, but yeah, he made it. But yeah, it was great. It was really good. My wife and I we switch uh holidays. So this year Thanksgiving was at my parents' place, and then we'll go to her dad's for Christmas, and then we switch. So every other year we do the switch thing to make sure everybody gets a little bit of us at least.
Yeah, we tried to do that, but her parents live 12 hours away, so it's very
Oh
difficult.
yeah, that's difficult and difficult to the point where they couldn't blame you for not making the
Nah,
trip.
nah. But we do still make that trip at least once a year. So,
Yeah,
it
you
just
don't
might not be
freeze
around
them
the
out.
holidays. Oh yeah, no, not at
Yeah,
all, not at all. Love her parents. Me and her dad get along like gangbusters. Um, so yeah, it's good. It's good stuff. But, yeah. So, welcome to our weekly episode where we're going to cover all of the AEW and WWE goodness this week, including the just happened Crazy Wrestling Saturday is what I'm going to refer to it as because Collision, Rampage, and Survivor Series all in one day.
we're gonna call it Thanksgiving Saturday for wrestling fans. This week was awesome.
Whoa. Yeah,
This
dude. Yeah,
week
we were
was
eating.
great. We were well fed for Thanksgiving week. I am
Hell
so
yes, we
excited to
were.
talk about stuff. I
Oh,
really,
yeah.
really am.
Me too. Me too. There's like so much on the plate this week. So, Adam, why don't you roll our social medias and then we'll get right into it, man.
Absolutely. First of all, please join us at Blue Sky. We're no longer using the platform formerly known as Twitter. You can find our official account at Smark fndnpodcast.bsky.social. You can find me and my personal account at Adam Smark fndnpod.bsky.social. Aaron, you can find at aaronsmark.bsky.social. Please come and interact with us. We are absolutely uh, we're especially at a time like this where there's so much great stuff to talk about. We want to talk about it more than just on this podcast. We want to have conversations. We want to see what you guys think about anything and everything regarding WWE, AEW, New Japan, Ring of Honor, MLW, WXW. I don't care. I love wrestling. Aaron loves wrestling. Let
Hmm.
us know what we're missing out on because we only cover two brands. So if you have something that you can suggest to us, we will absolutely check it out and we'll talk on it. We'll make the Call in the Ring segment at the end. We'll make it about this cool new wrestling that we were referred to.
Heck yeah,
Like
if I can watch it, I'll watch it. If I can watch it on YouTube,
heck
especially, I
yeah.
know a lot of indie companies run like YouTube shows. If you
Mm-hmm.
recommend an indie company on a YouTube show to me, I will probably watch it at least once.
Yep.
Blue Sky
Yeah.
turned me back on to NXT, and I've been there ever since. It's been like 3 weeks. I've watched NXT every week while I've
Yeah.
been like doing my evening shift stuff, and just I love it. Like I mean, I'm like hell yeah. And then the other day, I don't really know much about Speedball Mike Bailey, and I was like somebody explain to me why I should be a fan of this guy. And Blue Sky, the wonderful denizens there have provided me a list of several matches, probably 10 more than that. I don't know. I haven't gone back and checked the thread today, but yesterday it was like 15 different matches. Um, and the very first one was Speedball versus Osprey. So I'm like,
Yeah. From
and they,
one of their TNA pay-per-views, right?
yeah, yeah. And
I
now
think
I'm
it
a
was earlier this
fan.
year. Yeah.
Maybe, yeah. So now I'm a
I
fan.
think it was the last TNA pay per view that he had before. officially joining AEW, right? I think that
Yeah,
was his last match there.
maybe it
Say
was. Maybe it was. So
something
yeah, I
like
mean,
that.
um, great match, and I'm a fan. Like I this all these rumors about Speedball McBealy. Let's hope he lands somewhere that I'm watching, because
Yeah,
holy crap, like I enjoyed it. So yeah, I mean, as far as that goes, like yeah, come interact with us, talk to us. I love Blue Sky. There's genuine interaction there, way more than that other place,
yeah,
and yeah,
yeah.
I mean, I just enjoyed there. So yeah, come see us.
Yeah. As far as where you can listen to us, clearly you're already listening to us, so you know at least one way to find us. But if you're looking for other avenues, we're on Spotify, we're on Pandora, we're on nearly every podcast streaming service you can find except Apple. We're still having issues there, and we probably will for a little while at least. But you can find us on YouTube at youtube.com/at Smark Foundation Podcast. And if you want to support us a little bit financially, keep the lights on a little bit, we do have a shop at smarkfoundationpodcast.printful.me. You can get a hoodie, you can get a mug, you can get a different hoodie with a zipper, or you can get a t-shirt. They're all reasonably priced. Has the logo that I drew up and was colored by Aaron and made a little bit prettier by Aaron. So it was a collaborative effort. We really enjoyed, just honestly just get a kick out of somebody having our swag. Really, it'd be kind of neat. And yeah,
Always.
if you want to go to our podcast direct home, it is rss.com/podcasts/ Smart Foundation with the additional slash on there at the end. I don't know why they do that. It's tech language that I don't understand, but it's there. And I'm sure if you don't put that last slash on there, it will lead you there anyway. So
Yes.
that's where you can find us.
Like yeah, well, so that let's that our intros are done. So let's get into the lockup. So that's our raw review for this week. Okay, so forgive me, anybody that's been listening to the last couple weeks, as my expectant self has been talking about the Survivor Series as if it was 4 weeks away, when in reality it was two, and me being dumb and thinking, man, all these builds are super fast. Why? This is why. Because Survivor Series is this week, which when I tuned into Raw, they were like, hey, Saturday is Survivor Series. I was like, oops.
Oh
Okay.
yeah.
Okay. So correction on my part. But here we go full bore into go homes for,
Forgive us, we
for
are middle-aged
Survivor
men.
Series. Yes. Forgive me. I'm middle aged. So yeah. So Raw, little bit to like, a little bit to dislike. It was a good show this week altogether. So we'll just go through it all here, or at least the good parts, and a little bit of what I didn't like. Gunther had a promo. We're still going through this like Gunther is insecure thing with Damian Priest. They're building. They finally tell us we're going to get a match between Damian Priest and Gunther at Survivor Series. So I think they told us that last week. So now they're just kind of promo offing. Gunther attacks Priest, real basic, but I really like how they're trying to play on his insecurities. However, I actually feel like this is a little bit repetitive because Shinsuke, who is now feuding with LA Knight out of kind of nowhere over the last couple of weeks, is also doing a playing on the insecurities bit with LA Knight. So we're kind of playing the same playbook here, guys, in just a different way. It's like, one with extra steps or whatever. Um, so I don't really like that part. And I also don't like that seemingly this week we're told that it's going to be Shinsuke versus LA Knight at Survivor Series, and Santos Escobar is nowhere to be found.
Yeah.
I don't really like that. I mean, I
Well,
know
nor
I
is
was.
Andrade.
No, wait, we'll talk about Andrade. Hold on a second. That's part of the
Oh,
stuff I did
okay,
like this
okay.
week. Okay, so um, I know that it's possible based on everything we've talked about week to week and then what has happened in subsequent weeks after we've talked about certain things, that there might be somebody from one of the companies or both listening to us. And I don't know how that happened, but
Oh, beats
since
me.
it's either them listening to us or the universe just coinciding with things we say, I'm going to go ahead and put this out there. Um, I I don't like when someone just gets disappeared. I know last week I griped about them doing the Santos and LA Knight 7 times in a row, but that would have made sense for a Survivor Series match, or at least those two and Shinsuke like a three-way. But no, just no Santos at all. We're going to have a three-way with, or we're going to have a U.S. title match with just LA Knight and Shinsuke Nakamura. Not really a fan of that. But not the match itself, just where's Santos Escobar?
Yeah.
Um, so that out of the way. Um, Dragon Lee and Rey Mysterio versus American Made, really good workable tag team match.
Hmm.
Um, but nothing spectacular. I mean, it was about what I expected. They had a great
Yeah.
match, but we're not like I kind of feel like it's where here's where the dichotomy is. Here's where the split is between the wrestling companies. WWE is where you go to get your really compelling television storylines. AEW is where you go to get your really compelling wrestling and pay-per-views. One company is way better at doing produced television segments, and one company is way better at doing wrestling. So the matches on a week to week Raw or SmackDown are largely forgettable. But that's not to detract from these people. That's just to say, like, WWE's matches are really memorable when we get to the pay per views, and they're really good
Yeah.
at building stories. And unfortunately, if you're like American Maiden and Rey Mysterio and Dragon Lee, right now there's not really a story, much of a story going on with either of those guys, with either of the factions that they're involved in. I mean, there's kind of things going on, but it's really not a lot. They're not really at the forefront, which at WWE equals kind of just happening, kind of just there. Um, and so, since these two aren't involved in a storyline that can be forwarded by the match is kind of inconsequential. But it was a good match. And I mean, not one I'm going to be like, hey, go seek it out, but it was a good match. I wasn't like, man, why'd they have this snoozer on TV? No, it was good. These guys are all
Yeah.
four very capable wrestlers. It's just there was no real story that we're gonna be putting forward here. If we get an LFO, or Latino World Order or
LWO.
LWF, if we get an LWO versus Chad Gable and American Made thing, okay, cool. That'd be cool. But let's roll more into this.
Yeah,
Let's get into it.
it's a difficult line to walk because on the one hand, the conceit, you want there to be something extracurricular to the match to hook you,
Hmm.
especially in WWE where that's kind of expected. Aside from like squash matches and stuff. On the other hand, the conceit of kayfabe that you buy into of your own volition
Hmm.
is that this is a company where people wrestle, and sometimes they just wrestle whoever's put in front of them without any reason
Yeah.
because it's their job.
Yeah.
So you kind of have to ride the line. Like there, honestly, I feel like there should be just random matches every now and then, just for their sole entertainment purposes alone. Because especially like that's how I mean that's how people like Mortos get over. Like
Yeah.
he didn't have a story. He was just on TV all the time,
Hmm.
generally doing the job. But like he that's how people get over sometimes is that you just put them in front of people and they do their thing and
Hmm.
they get so I don't necessarily feel like it's a bad thing, but it's easier to do when the Raw is 3 hours,
Yeah.
when you have
Yeah.
the extra time. It's
Hmm.
easier to do when you have not built up this narrative about your own product where this is where you go to get stories.
Hmm.
Like that's the line in the sand that the toxic WWE fans like, well, where's the story? It's like, okay, well, all right, well then everything that happens on WWE better have a story to it other
Hmm.
than what's going on in the match, because otherwise you're just, you know, blowing smoke up your own butt.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. Now what I said earlier was not to say like that the company like WWE
no,
has
no,
some very good
no.
wrestling and AEW has some very good stories.
Yeah,
But
I mean, I
we
only
just
bring it up to to say that that is a
You know,
difficult tightrope to walk is all.
yeah,
It's
it
like,
is. It
and
is.
I don't know where the line is. I don't
It
book
is.
things. I've never been in
No.
that position, so I can only tell how difficult it is from a second slash third person perspective. So
Right.
inside that circle, that booking circle, it must be really difficult to find
Hmm.
where that line is, and you're not always going to succeed, and that you
Right.
just have to kind of accept that people are not perfect.
Hmm.
It's just not going to happen.
Yeah. So after that, we had like Naomi and Bianca and Io Sky talking about who's going to be their new fifth member. Jade got taken out last week, so they're looking for a new fifth member. I mean, it's kind of been telegraphed that it's going to be Bailey, so we'll see. You know, um, then we had Braun Breaker versus Ludwig Kaiser for the Intercontinental Championship. This got set up last week. Really good match, but it kind of ended in a scrum between the two of them and Sheamus. At which point, Adam Pearce just lost his freaking mind and screamed that they were going to have a three-way match at Survivor Series. So, boom, there's another. There's two of our five matches. Um, just suddenly booked. Like, I mean, this one was just suddenly booked like the 5 days before. I don't really like when they do short stuff like this, but understanding their timeline between one huge event that they have to do in Saudi Arabia versus one scheduled normal Big Four event,
Yeah.
I guess I get it. But so this we'll definitely talk more about this later. Okay, because like
Hmm.
I don't want to go too far into talking about the between Braun and Ludwig when we've got Braun, Ludwig, and Sheamus in my pay-per-view review,
Yeah.
and boy oh boy, do I want to talk about it.
Yeah. I heard that one
Um,
delivered.
yes. Short and long. You'll get a long answer later, but short answer, yeah. Um, backstage we have a Judgment Day segment, dude. Like I know what happened here. Finn kind of gave everybody a dressing down verbally, except for Liv. But I guess you really can't dress down the women's champion when you don't have when you're like a tag champ with
Not
bobblehead.
in this day and age.
But to be perfectly honest with you, at this point, please break the Judgment Day up. I'm gonna talk a little bit more about it later during the pay per view, but I freaking hate this crap, dude. I hate it. I hate it so much. And everything except for one other thing that I really hate, everything came up like F Judgment Day this week. So I was like super happy because I just like I tune out at these stupid segments. Like I'm sorry, I don't like it, and I don't really have an alternative for you guys. Like Liv, Raquel, Dom, leave them together. Dom's got nuclear heat. They can carry that trio as a heel trio just on his heat, and you'll be fine. But like you've got or you yeah. No. Yeah, no, you do. They're still the tag champs. Um so you've got Finn Balor and JD McDonough with the tag team champions, but like just right there. I mean, like I had to think about it. Were they still the tag champs? I shouldn't not know who the tag team champions are, or and it's because I don't like these tag team champions, and I don't know what to do. Like normally, I would like to offer some constructive criticism and say you can do this in place of this, but I don't know, man. I don't know. Like give them back to the Usos or something. I just don't know. Like the Judgment Day has played the hell out at this point, and every time I see them, it makes me irrationally angry in a way I shouldn't get irrationally angry watching a freaking wrestling show. Like I just don't like it, and
That's
I'm
bad. I mean,
allowed
I'm a
to, I
big.
think.
That's too bad. I always liked Finn Balor's work, and
No,
I
see, here's the
from the
thing.
UK from the UK brand when they were. I liked JD McDonough. I thought that he's bumped and sold his butt off.
The only
Like,
person I'm not really a fan of individually in the group is JD. I just don't
you know,
care for him that much. But like I'm a super big fan of Finn. Like when he won the Universal Championship, when he was the very first Universal Champion, I was over the freaking moon about that and crushed when he got his shoulder injury. Like
yeah.
I it legitimately upset me.
And the dude
I
is super important. He created Bullet Club.
Yeah. And I
Like it was
love
on
Car.
him. It was on his back.
Yeah, I think Liv's a great heel champion. I think Raquel's a good heater for her. I think Dom's a good heater for everybody because he has nuclear heat. I love Carlito. I've always loved Carlito. I just think he's funny and a good in-ring hand. So like he's got that coupling that works well together. He's funny, but he
He's
can really
enormous now
work.
too.
Yeah, and
Like,
he should
jeez,
definitely
he's jacked as hell.
he should not be playing second fiddle to the midget twins. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. He's huge. He
He's
should be
enormous.
they should be playing that up somehow. But it's the funny thing. He's done what our truth
Yeah.
like our truth is physically imposing also, but he's never going to get out of this funny thing now. It's never going to happen. Poor guy, love him to death. But the funny thing's funny. I'm entertained by it, so keep doing it. Hey,
And if it keeps him in a job, I don't think he cares what he's doing. Like, he's
yeah.
having fun.
Speaking
I
of
mean, that
Judgment,
dude is in his early 50s. He looks like he hasn't aged a day since his K Quick days.
I don't think he has, honestly.
I
But
think he found
so
the fountain of youth. Just made him
speaking of
dumber.
Judgment Day, which I don't like to keep harping on Judgment Day, but speaking of them, then we go into a tag team championship match with the Judgment Day and the War Raiders. And I'm like, oh heck yeah, they've been shaking shit up in the tag division. It's a real possibility that the War Raiders might win. And then Dom Mysterio gets involved and the War Raiders lose. And the crowd was pissed. And you could tell how pissed they were. It was like a legitimate, like mad. They were
Yeah.
mad. Um,
I mean,
looks
they can
like
always fix that next week on Raw, though. Like, they can
yeah.
pivot.
Um, they had New Day versus Alpha Academy. Um,
Yeah.
Kingston and Woods are they've blown. They've blown. Alpha Academy beat New Day. Akira Tozawa got the pin.
Good for
Uh,
him.
I get good for him. First of all,
Good for
I
him.
love Alpha. I love Otis. I love Akira. I like Maxine Dupree. Like I really hope more for them always. But
Tozawa
they
is one of my guys from 205 Live days. I've loved his
Yeah.
work.
But this match was all of 2.5 minutes because the New Day just exploded. They vowed to end their tensions with one another at next week's 10th anniversary, but they were screaming at each other at one point. Like Kofi reminding Xavier that he's never been a singles champion. Xavier reminding Kofi that he blew the WWE Championship in 26 seconds. They were digging in. They every the worst parts of each other's career. They were like, "You did this, and you did." I mean, like uh, it was bad. I'm glad it's
You
gonna
wanted to
be.
progress.
I
You
want
wanted
it
to
to.
progress. It has progressed.
It has progressed, and next week it looks like we're gonna get a conclusion of some kind. Thankfully, that's tomorrow from the time we're recording, so I can't wait. Actually, Woods is
Come
the
on,
craziest
Biggie,
thing though
baby.
is Xavier's like trying to talk all this shit, and Kofi's like, I don't even need you. I was a Hall of Famer when I met you. Whew. Like crazy. So then we had the War Games Advantage match between Bianca and Nia. It was really good. But Bailey showed up and cost Nia the match. So, and Bianca was like, because they had their problems in the past, but I guess it's Bailey trying to be like, hey, I'm nice or whatever. Um, so then Miz and Final Testament come in after that, and they find that Scarlett's been attacked by Nikki Cross. So they're kind of forwarding the Wyatt thing, but that's pretty much all we got all week for the Wyatts. Uh, spoiler for SmackDown and the pay per view. That's all we got all week for the Wyatts.
All right.
Um, then we had kind of a clip. We had a kind of a clip towards the end of the show where Adam Pearce unveiled the women's intercontinental championship, and we're going to
So,
have a
okay.
tournament that starts tomorrow to determine the women's intercontinental champion.
See, that's good though, because we were talking about how it was weird that they had the United States title that was going to go across both brands. So at least now they're linked to the championship that's on the brand that they're on. So
Yeah,
I see that as a good thing, and also that's more gold for women to go for.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
also throws into the air, once again, what a Grand Slam champion. So we'll see.
And then just another thing I kind of liked. We had like a really short kind of segment where they talked about how they weren't sure how Roman Reigns and Punk were going to work together. So Roman Reigns and CM Punk were going to have a face-to-face sit down on SmackDown, which means I'm tuning in, even if I wasn't reviewing the show.
I mean,
So
that's the goal, right?
that's the goal.
That's the goal.
So overall, Raw was pretty good. Um, they I don't really like the quick booking, but I understand it because of the time frame. I also I'm also excited that they're kind of still doing a good separation of what goes on the pay-per-view and
Mm-hmm.
what should be on a television show. So we've got, the triple threat for the Intercontinental Championship and the match for the US Championship and the War Games matches all on the pay-per-view.
Yeah,
And we've got and the World Heavyweight Championship match. All are on the pay-per-view. And the New Day imploding is going to be on Raw next week,
right.
where it probably should be,
And
because
then
there's no
Cody and
titles
KO will
involved
be
in it.
on main event,
Cody and KO is Saturday night's main
which
event.
is somewhere in the middle of those two
Yes, the conclusion
concepts.
of the women's U.S. Championship tournament will also be at Saturday night's main event. And I am not sure about the women's intercontinental championship conclusion, but it may also be on Saturday night's main event. I imagine we will find out tonight as this is airing on Raw whether when those tournaments will. But guess what, man? The C2's going on. They've got that thing for Wrestle Kingdom, that little tournament going on, and there's two women's tournaments going on in WWE. And after the May Young tournament, like these
Yeah,
guys are good at women's tournaments.
yeah.
It's tournament season, and my little
Yeah.
heart couldn't be happier.
I know. I love a tournament.
I love
I love a
tournaments.
tournament so much. I'm a huge mark for tournaments.
So yeah, big up for Raw. Raw was good this week, and with that, I guess we're gonna go into the shot.
Shine. All right. Shine time. That means AEW Dynamite 11/27/24. So, one thing I liked, the Continental Classic is rad, guys. It's awesome. I love it already. I mean, I loved it last year, but I love it again. Shelton Benjamin versus Mark Briscoe opened up the tournament. Before the match actually starts, MVP comes out with Shelton and with Bobby Lashley, cuts a promo on the ring, hyping his guys, doing what so many wrestlers don't do. They kind of lean on the fourth wall a little bit and laying it out on the line. We're here to win championships, and that gives us leverage so that we can make more money down the line. It's like, oh, yes, hurt business. Their business is hurting people. Yeah, I love it. With that hype promo, you pretty much knew who was winning going into this. You know, they don't usually do that kind of a promo without the guy that's focusing on winning, or they without them. You don't do that without that guy winning, unless it's like a whole storyline point, but that's rare.
Mm.
So it was a little easy to guess the outcome, but I tell you what, Mark Briscoe did not look like a chump in this match at all. Uh,
No,
no, uh, you know. So Briscoe actually at one point hits a froggy bow about midway through the match, but he can't cover because Shelty's been working his ribs over for like the entire match. So he couldn't roll over and capitalize on it. He actually tries a second one a bit later, but Shelton gets his knees up, further damages the ribs. You know, psychology. Um, he followed that up with just this scary looking German suplex, landed way high up on his neck. I, I
yeah,
was I was really scared when Shelty picked him up for a second one, but at least that one was a little bit more normal. Uh, Briscoe seemed okay though, so I mean, uh, crisis averted. But a few minutes after that, there was some more back and forth, kind of countering and stuff. But Shelton busts through Briscoe's face with a thrust kick. He has the best one because I think what the secret is probably, and I hope I'm not like busting the magician's trick here, but I think he gets so close when he actually like because he jumps into it with his other leg. So when he hits you with it, when you're hit with it, you kind of have no choice but to kind of go underneath his leg,
Mm-hmm.
as he's swiping across. So it just makes it look like he's busting your face like completely in and breaking your orbital every single time he hits it. It looks amazing.
Mm-hmm.
It looks like a real killer. And after that, he hits him with the exploder slam for the win. Good first 3 points for Shelty B. I don't think Mark Briscoe really loses anything. I mean, Benjamin has been booked very, very well. He's been booked like a monster, really. His only loss was against Swerve Strickland, and even that, Benjamin dominated most of that match, as I recall. So, like, they're doing a real good job setting up Shelton Benjamin to look like, even in his late 40s, as just like the guy. Like, he's like the best athlete. Uh, so much better presentation than his last run of WWE. They just didn't seem to know what they had on their hands, and at least so far, and I don't know how much of this is Tony and how much of this is, you know, him taking advice from those guys about how they would like to be presented. But so far, if you're gonna give, anybody credit for it, Tony Khan has booked these guys so well.
Mm-hmm.
Like every single one of them looks like a threat. Even MVP as a manager with that cane of his looks that boss cane of his
Yeah.
looks like a threat. So I was happy. Mark is not gonna be like last time. I think he's gonna pick up 2 or 3 wins here, down the road. I do not think he's gonna get almost shut out like he was last year. I mean, they got to have at least 1 or 2 kind of surprises. I think it would be natural for him to be one of them.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, maybe over Brody King or Claudio or somebody. Um, but yeah, that was good. Also good. Hangman promo. Adam Page comes out. He explains the finish to Full Gear, that he agreed to distract John Moxley so that Christian Cage could use his contract under the admittedly implied condition that Page would get the first shot at the belt. So that's confusion that's cleared up.
Mm-hmm.
He says his intention is and always has been to be world champion because it never should have been anybody else's belt in the first place. So, I mean, you can argue that point, but I get where he's coming from a character perspective. Jay White comes out to dispute this. In fact, though, as we discussed last week, like he brings up the fact that he lost his last 2 big profile matches, and the one before that he won didn't even count in the record books because it was a lights out match. So, like, what are we even doing here discussing him in the world title picture? Jay White just pretty much said all of that in different words. But he said, well, if you want to earn it, I mean, you might have to go through me again. So he's like, I'll fight you again right here. I'll beat you again right here. So they were about to throw down, but the Death Riders come out and attack before we can see that impromptu scrap. Jay White makes a little bit of a comeback after getting beaten for a few seconds, and even teases using the Blade Runner on Marina Shafir after she hit Hammer with the briefcase. But Mox makes the save and sets up Shafir to slap White in the mother's milk choke to give us an incredible meme image. Just a fantastic shot of her looking super mean and Jay White just being like, like, it was all over the internet. Great imagery. What I thought was the defining image of this segment, though, that overhead camera that they use, I
Mm-hmm.
don't think it's as good a quality as the other cameras that they use around the ring. I don't know what the deal is. The imagery looks different. I'm not a tech guy, so I don't know, but it always looks kind of weird and off-putting. But from a cinematography standpoint, that ending shot of Jay White splayed out in the ring with the overhead camera, chef's kiss, perfect. Like,
Mm-hmm.
couldn't ask for a better explanation of what happened there than having Jay White who's been kind of untouchable since returning from injury, just laid out. So I think I think that was really well done. Claudio versus Ricochet, I really liked. It played out a lot like the previous week's match with Claudio with Darby, where Ricochet, I mean, Ricochet got a little bit more offense in this match than Darby did in theirs, but it was a lot of a lot more of Claudio dominating and uh, Ricochet kind of catching up. Um, but at one point, Ricochet countered a pop up by Claudio by landing on his shoulders and then dropping down for a Hurricane Rana because Ricochet things. Another great spot saw Ricochet springboard off the second rope, only to get knocked with a loopy with a European uppercut. I don't know what's better, the RKO out of nowhere or the European uppercut out of nowhere, because they're both rad. Which is better? You tell us. Hit up our blue sky and you tell us.
Mm-hmm.
Lots of submission transitions from Claudio towards the end, but Ricochet escapes. He counters the Ricola bomb into a Hurricane Rana pin for a very close 2 count, at which Claudio decides that he's just had enough. He throws him on the outside, drops him crotch first on the guardrail, and leaves him to be counted out. Ricochet beats the count, but he eats a running lariat for the loss, which was essentially the same pattern that we saw last week with Darby. He wasn't crotched on the top. He was, press slam from one table into another that didn't even break. But
Mm-hmm.
the strategy was the same. He beats him up on the outside so badly that he has to crawl in to beat the 10 count at the last second, only to be bombarded with a running lariat. So I think that's what we're gonna see Claudio try to do, at least for the next month or so, as his finish is like, oh, beat you up on the outside and then beat you with a running lariat.
Mm-hmm.
Could be worse. I mean, it's certainly sound strategy. It's like, when you talk about wrestling psychology, there are worse ways to go about it. I mean, I don't think he has as strong a lariat as he has as other people in the company. I don't think that it's the most impressive thing that he does. I think he'd be better served by hitting him with just a full speed running uppercut, just to make it his own.
Yeah.
But as far as the storytelling uh, of it goes, it makes sense, and it puts him over as somebody who's strategic. You know,
Mm-hmm.
Ricochet had an online promo earlier. I think it was just online after his loss to Takeshita at Full Gear, but before Dynamite aired, and he seemed to be taking his first AEW singles loss pretty hard. And now he loses his first C2 match. So I would like to see if he continues to lose and kind of go nuts over it or get
Mm-hmm.
depressed or something like that. Like, give something for Ricochet as a character to sink his teeth into, because that's not something you often see with Ricochet's booking anywhere, really. It's just, oh, this is the guy who does the incredible, insane stuff in the ring. That's the main draw of him.
Yeah.
Well, what about the man? We never really see that, aside from, a little bit, it was an open secret that he and Samantha Irvin, were a thing, are a
Yeah.
thing still. Don't mean to imply anything. They are a thing. But uh, they never really seemed to invest in his character. Maybe a little bit in NXT, but maybe we're getting that opportunity now. So even if he's the very unlikely one to go on that 6 match losing streak and not get a single point, and it drive him up a wall. And
Mm-hmm.
let's see what he can do with that. I'd be okay with that. I don't. I mean, and to be fair, the records, the rankings that they don't use, but our friend AEW rankings does use, they roll over at the end of the and reset at the end of the year anyway. So him
Mm-hmm.
taking 6 straight losses at the very end of the year with a reset in January means nothing
Mm-hmm.
in terms of, I mean, new year, new me, right?
Mm-hmm.
So there's storytelling potential there. I kind of like the potential that is there, and I'm looking forward to see where it goes and how well Ricochet can pull it off. It's not something he's been really asked to do a lot, so let's see where it goes.
Yeah.
Um, On the other hand, I've been wanting to give it the benefit of the doubt, but I'm getting kind of tired of this Adam Cole, MJF stuff. Like, what's the end game here? Like, Cole hasn't been the same in the ring, which is to be expected. He suffered a horrific injury. He was out for over a year. I am still more forgiving of that, but like, you know, when he's asked for reasoning on the mic for why he's doing what he's doing, his defenses have been kind of questionable at best. Um, and to be fair, this is coming from a guy who, during MJF's title run, where he miraculously turned babyface because the crowd just, eventually a smart crowd is going to always reward talent, no matter whether that talent is as a babyface or as a heel. I get that. That's been from time immemorial in wrestling. If he entertains you, if they entertain you, you're going to start cheering for him regardless of what they're doing. I
Mm-hmm.
understand that. I get that. That being said, I was always the guy complaining, our scumbag? Excuse you,
Mm-hmm.
I don't want a scumbag. I want somebody to beat this guy who admitted on live TV to drunk driving and then framing his prom date for the resulting crash. Pardon you. Like, this guy needs to be dealt with. Like, so this coming from me who has that standpoint, I'm like, you need a better rationale for what you did, Adam. You did. Like, I'm
Mm-hmm.
sorry. Like, just saying, oh, we got him before he was going to get us. I mean, yeah, I guess, but that really only works if you don't wind up looking like an idiot in the end. And you're kind of looking like an idiot right now because even Kyle O'Reilly is like, just let it go, man. Just let it go. And nobody wants to let it go, which leads to the Dynamite Diamond Battle Royal. It might show some promise of Cole or O'Reilly win to finally get that stupid ring off Max that he's had for 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
But more than likely, they'll just fight with each other, wind up both being eliminated by the eventual winner, who will not go on to beat MJF for that diamond. So can we just skip to Act 3 of this, where MJF does something so egregious that the finally gets the crowd back behind Cole, so that they're finally into the match when Cole wins?
Mm-hmm.
Because it is, I'm just tired. Like, this is the match with Roddy and MJF was great. I liked the match and everything like that, but like, this whole thing, like, ugh, come on, what are we waiting for? Just pull the trigger already.
Mm-hmm.
That being said, Matt, the show ended with Darby Allin versus Brody King, which is a lot shorter than their previous matches, as Darby was selling his self-inflicted car crash injuries. Like, his entire body was taped up. It was
Yeah,
hilarious.
yeah.
It was
He was
like,
more taped
oh.
than man.
He was more taped up now than when he actually got hit with a bus for real in New York City. It was so funny. But the story of the match is that Allen can barely even keep up, and Brody's like feeling more and more guilty the longer the match goes on. But Allen, of course, doesn't give up because he's Darby Allin. He
Mm-hmm.
gets repeatedly destroyed for about 7 straight minutes before mounting a little bit of a comeback. And I'll say I bought into the comeback too, because he hit a coffin drop onto a standing Brody King on the outside, and then he went back up and hit him with a regular coffin drop from the top to the all the way to the bottom on the outside when he was on the ground, and he rolled him back in. It looked like he was going to go for a third. I'm like, this could do it. I mean, the coffin drop has been pretty well protected for the
Mm-hmm.
most part, but he got caught. The third one, he got caught with a rear naked choke, stalls him out long enough for Brody to hit him with a Gonzo bomb. Oof,
Yeah. Ooh.
yikes, for the win. The story, though, is that, after he gets his 3 points, he walks away, but Claudio starts sneaking up. Now that the bell's rung, there can be there can be people at ringside again. He
Mm-hmm.
sneaks up with a chair, looking to finally do Darby in, but Brody comes and he just kind of big dogs him away. And like, the respect that
Mm-hmm.
he has for Darby Allin is readily apparent. Like, he took the win for sure, but he's like, yeah, this guy's after all the wars we've had, I respect him more than ever, and I'm not going to let him get destroyed by this guy. I did what I needed to do to win the
Hmm.
match. This is no, this is
No.
not cool. And
Yeah.
that's set up next week or this coming week because it's Sunday as we record this. But Claudio versus Brody King is up next, and
Yeah.
oh boy, big meaty men slapping meat. Give it to me. I want it. I'm gonna get it.
I
I love it. I want there to be meat chance. There better be meat chance.
hope so.
Who, if anybody's listening, who's going to be in wherever this is going to be this week, meat, meat, meat.
Oh yeah, I'm excited about that one too, man. And I
Oh,
need more of that. I need more Brody King being involved in the storyline.
yeah, man, they have a gem with him. Like they
Yeah, they
really
do.
do. He is excellent at what he does. Like that's
Yeah.
that's the thing too. That whole stable, House of Black, it's just it's a murderer's row of talent.
Hmm.
Like it really is. Buddy Matthews is pound for pound one of the best guys in the world in between those ropes. Malachi Black has this aura about him that's just it just oozes cool and enigmatic. And even when he's being a heel, you can't really help but cheer for him because he's just so freaking cool. Brody
Hmm.
King is that big athletic, big man who can do pretty much anything that you want. He can cut a promo if you give him the
Yeah.
opportunity to too. So like, I mean, what a what a stable of studs. Like
Hmm.
every single one of them is just an excellent pro wrestler in their own particular ways. Um, I'd like to see them eventually be the one to dethrone the Death Riders for the trios title. I think that would be. I think they need another proper run with it,
Hmm.
and I think no other established trio in AEW would be nearly as believable as being able to pull it off. Those are the guys. Those are the guys, right?
Yeah.
They're the guys.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's the shine, I guess. let's
Yeah.
let's go to the Morton.
Yep. All right. So for this week's Morton, we got Smackdown, the go home show to Survivor Series, and very much go home show. Now, to kick things off, remember how I was saying wait for Andrade earlier? Here we go.
Yeah.
Andrade
Okay.
versus Shinsuke kicked everything off.
Ooh.
Um, Shinsuke going in to fight the champion didn't seem to make a lot of sense as competitive as they made this match. I mean, it was really competitive. Like, of course, it was, of course, Nakamura won. I didn't really expect him not to going into the title match. But yeah, they were just beating the ever loving hell out of each other. Like both
They
of
do
them,
have a history, a very long history, in fact.
yeah,
Back to
both
New
of them
Japan.
very much striking on display, like
Mm.
just beating the shit out of each other. Really good match. But yeah, Nakamura takes the win in the end. Really dug that. And then last week on SmackDown, after Cody confronted Kevin Owens, he went backstage and Carmelo Hayes was kind of talking some shit. So he's like, you know what? I'm going to test the number one draft pick. So then they had a match. Um, it was pretty good. Um, I thought it was a little short. I wasn't really sure what the point was, besides that Cody was mad and he just picked this guy because he was running his head or whatever. So really wasn't a lot there, but uh, good match altogether. Hayes is a really good wrestler. Carmelo Hayes, he can
Yeah.
go.
I know him only through reputation. I've never actually seen a match of his, but everybody raves about him.
Mhm.
So
Then we had a Tommaso Ciampa was shown talking to Johnny Gargano about how it doesn't matter if the machine guns are your friends and this and that. You know, we're trying to get the tag team belts and stuff like that. So it looks like maybe DIY might implode soon too. I'm okay with it because I would really rather see Tommaso Ciampa versus Johnny Gargano than what we're currently seeing as a tag team.
they're such good dance. They're those destined to do this forever kind of
Yeah,
pairing. They work as a tag team, they work as opponents. Like it works every time.
yeah. KO had a video segment where he talked about why he hates Cody Rhodes, and it was basically, kind of rehashing what I said last week, which was that the Bloodline tried to end his career three different times, and when they
Yeah.
wanted somebody to help them, it was Cody, and basically f that. Um, Makes sense. Then
Yeah.
we had Michin versus Lash Legend versus Piper Niven in the Women's US tournament. Michin took the win in this one. It was a really good match. I just thought it
Yay,
was,
Michin.
yeah, it was a really good match. I just thought it was awfully short. For a three-way between three really good wrestlers, it was 5 or 7 minutes. I just didn't think it had
Mm,
enough time. I didn't really like that, but eh, what can we do? Um, so then we had Reigns and Punk sit down for their face to face. Punk says, "I'm not here for you. I'm here for Paul Heyman." And then basically, it's about what you would expect until the end. And Punk says that, uh, you know, I'm not here for you. I'm here for Heyman, and tells Heyman, like, okay, so when this is over, you'll owe me a favor. And then Reigns asks what the favor, like Punk leaves. Reigns asks Heyman what the favor is, and Heyman says, "Let's just get past War Games, then we'll have all the time in the world to talk about it."
mm.
So, not sure what that is, but it looks like we might be getting Punk and Reigns at some point over the next year, and I'm here for it.
Yeah. I mean, I doubt Reigns takes the L there, but it's a marquee
Yeah,
match for sure.
for
People
sure.
will pay to see that.
Then we had Jey Uso versus Jacob Fatu for the advantage match for their War Games match. Um, I mean, it was an all right match, but I knew Jacob Fatu was going to win, and he did.
I mean, the whole
And
point of war games, the advantage is to have the heels have the advantage, so that there's
yeah,
drama going into it whenever there's a new person that enters.
yeah,
The baby faces are always on the back foot. So like, I don't know why they even keep doing it. Why they keep up the pretense? Everybody knows.
right.
You know,
Um,
just say it's a coin flip and rig the coin flip. At least
right.
then it's supposed to be random as opposed to like, okay, like we know what's going
Mhm.
on.
The only thing that was kind of odd about this one was that it was a clean win. There was no bloodline interference on either side, but that was mostly because all this had come through previous to the match in the show and banned everybody from ringside. So,
Well, there you go.
but yeah, clean win for Fatu, leading into the match, and that was our main for SmackDown. There really wasn't a whole lot to SmackDown this week. Most of the segments were short. A couple of the matches were longer, but I mean, there really wasn't a lot.
Yeah,
No Motor
doesn't
City
sound
Machine
like it.
Gun. Yeah, no Motor City Machine Guns this week, which I was kind of like, they're you need to just have them on the show. Other
You
than
know they
that,
got flown in. You know they got flown in. And they probably sat in catering.
yeah, probably. Which I mean, I not a
Why would
bad
you fly?
job.
Why would
Go ahead.
everybody be required to be there? That's one of the things that's always bugged me about WWE. To be fair, I don't know if this is a WWE thing or a Vince thing, so it could have changed. But it always bugged me that like, no, no, we need you there. It's like you don't need me there. Why are you, you know,
Uh,
requiring me to show up?
it's not just a WWE
You
or
know,
Vince thing, because as I understand from some people I know who have worked at AEW, it is also an AEW thing, where
yeah, but
people
they
are required to be there and then not get used.
that's unfortunate. Like, I mean, especially since like there was that reality show that showed that TK is like meticulous in his booking,
Mhm.
like weeks in advance. So why are you having? I mean,
I have
I
accounts from
guess,
guys from Dark telling me that that they were told a plan when they got there for what match they would have,
and then it
and then
changed.
the plan for
And,
like the opponent didn't change, but the plan for the match would change 4 or 5 times before the show would go on.
well, that sounds
So
awfully Vince-like, doesn't it?
yes, it does. It does. So,
Sadly. Well,
but
I
that's I'm
hope
not
that
here
at
to bag
least
on Tony Khan because he's doing some good booking lately. So I'm not
at
here to bag on
least
him at all.
I hope that they're at least getting paid, even if they're not getting
Yeah.
put on TV.
Well, I'm sure they are.
I mean, downside guarantees aside, I'm hoping that at least even if they had to make the the trip out there only to sit back and do nothing, I
Hmm.
hope at least they're getting compensated for their time and their travel because that's
Right.
some BS.
Right. But yeah, all in all, it was just a basic go home show for an upcoming pay per view. But there wasn't a lot of go home math. Like they really did not have a lot of go home math. Like nobody standing over anybody in the end. None of that. Like it was like, I have no idea
Yeah,
what's going to happen. Also, spoiler alert for this show, kind of. But they're really leaning into Kevin Owens versus Cody Rhodes at Saturday night's main event. Is no Cody Rhodes on Survivor Series.
yeah,
He's not even there.
yeah,
Out of front now, if I go back through my notes and he might have appeared somewhere, but from bare memory, Cody Rhodes was not even there.
yeah,
So, and they were able to fill a really great pay per view without him. So, I mean, that speaks good for maybe the opportunity to have people who are over but not overused,
yeah.
which I always like. So, big ups to WWE this week for Raw and SmackDown. The pay per view is a monster that we're going to get into a little bit later. But I think from there, it's time to go over to our hope spots.
So your hope spot for this week is Collision from November 30th, 2024. Um, Again, a more wrestling centric show than Dynamite. It's just it's the character of the show generally. Starts off with more Continental Classic action with Juice Robinson versus Will Ospreay. Not gonna lie, the addition of Robinson in the tournament kind of seemed a little weird to me, given where he is on kind of the pecking order and where most of the other guys in the tournament are on the pecking order. He seems to be the kind of guy that would be. He's the one who's taking a pin for literally everybody else. But honestly, he and Osprey have surprisingly good chemistry. I thought, though this is Will Osprey we're talking about, so I mean, take that with however much salt you want.
I really love
Uh,
Juice Robinson, and I think
I think he's a
I want
great
to see him
character.
wrestle everybody, so I love this.
Yeah, no, I mean, I like him, but like that manic, chaotic energy. But I like him more as a character than I do as like in between the ropes guy. Um, that said, like he pulled out a lot of his best stuff here that I've never seen before. Like he had a draping DDT to the floor, a really deep overhook Boston Crab, where he's basically sitting on Osprey's head while grabbing where his thighs begin, as opposed to grabbing him by the ankles.
Mhm.
And then, honestly, even before that, he hit the first proper rude awakening neckbreaker that I've seen in over a decade. Like, I mean, that's Osprey for you. He'll take those dangerous neck bumps if he wants. Um, but yeah, like despite all that, there was no way Osprey was gonna lose.
Mm.
Like he's Will Osprey. No matter how taped up he was and how much he was selling the damage to his shoulders and arms, and they were taped up, like there was no way he was winning. They're losing this match. So Juice had countered and Oscar previously, but the Hidden Blade does him in eventually when Osprey hits his comeback. Uh, so he gets that comeback or win that he needs after the loss to Fletcher to build himself back up. Um, Unfortunately, I read later on that Juice had somehow, I don't know if it was in this match or not, but he got injured. He was seen in North Carolina's WrestleCade convention using crutches this weekend. So I don't know how they're going to handle that. They could do it a couple of different ways, in my estimation. I know from doing a tiny bit of research that when this kind of things happens in the G1, they don't replace the guy and they just give everybody else in that bracket 3 points as if they beat them. And then they just go on without that extra step in the tournament. I don't know if Tony Khan wants to do that or if he want to replace that spot and just with the idea that okay, well, if you want the spot, you're going to have to eat that 0 points that Juice absorbed in his first match. You could do that way. Um, I like there are several guys that I could see in that spot if they were to replace it. Hook is one. Um, Although I mean he's still kind of tied up with with the patriarchy and stuff. I'd like to see him in this environment, see how well he does. He could
Mhm.
be Daniel Garcia is in this tournament, but he could be this year's Daniel Garcia. That kind of thing. Put the young kid in there that's probably less experienced than everybody else and see how he holds up.
Mhm.
Um, I mean that tournament, his uh, Danny's participation and performances in that tournament really are what kind of built the launching pad for the rest of for his year. I mean, the year later he's TNT champion after a
Yeah.
long and winding road to get there, but I don't think he would even be in the position that he's in if it wasn't for how well he did in that tournament last year, even if he was only booked to win once. So,
Right.
because he hook in there after seeing Rampage, because I did watch, even though I'm not going to review Rampage, I did wind up watching it because it was right on after uh, Collision anyway. Maybe see if CMLL can spare Hechicero. Uh, love Hechicero.
Mhm.
Uh, he had a match with Commander on Rampage in the main event, and he's every bit the wizard he's advertised to be. I He's so smooth and he comes up with such cool techer stuff. I would love to see him in that spot. Uh, you know, I I, I mean, heck, put Nick Wayne or somebody, and just put anybody in there. I would rather they, injuries happen. It's an unfortunate reality and something you have to just kind of accept in wrestling. Injuries happen. It's dangerous business. I would rather see them instead of just copying G1 note for note. I would rather see them replace them
Mhm.
with somebody, give somebody some TV time. You know, that's just me. We'll see what they do. I mean, I'm sure they'll address it at some point before Dynamite on a platform that hardly anybody sees because that's what AEW's real biggest problem is getting the word out effectively. So, um, but yeah, Kyle Fletcher and the Beast Mortos. Like,
Oh.
I mean, how could this not be great? Like, it's Kyle Fletcher coming off, a string of good performances, but a career-defining performance against Osprey last week in Full Gear. And we stand the Beast Mortos here on this podcast.
Yes, we do.
This could not have been anything but wonderful, and it was wonderful. The crowd, by the way, was very behind Mortos in this. I want to put that out there. Even Don Callis on commentary mentioned it. Though I will say, it kind of bugs me that the whole thing about the Continental Classic is that nobody's to be ringside. You know what is at ringside? The commentary table is at
Mhm.
ringside.
Yeah.
Why is Don Callis allowed there? Why is Daddy Magic allowed to call Danny Garcia's matches? Like, I get what they add to their matches. I'm not necessarily opposed to that. But when you say ringside, you should say and mean ringside. Those two
Yeah.
should not be there. Should
Yeah.
not be there. What, you're just going to trust Don Callis to stay in his seat? Really? Really? To quote the Miz, really? Uh no. I mean, it what I would like to see is that lesson be learned, demonstrated as part of the story. Like, oh, Don Callis, oh, I guess we, have him actually interfere behind the referee's back and have Tony Khan say, hey, look, this was when I said, made the exception for people to be on commentary, the exception to the ringside rule. It was with the idea that you would stay there and you broke the trust. So,
Mhm.
no, you're in the back too. Maybe they do it that way. And
Yeah.
I would be okay with that if this was all to set that up. It's not going to happen. Let's be real. They're just going to, but I don't know. The pedant in me, which is very prevalent, clearly, um, just doesn't like that wording. If you say everybody needs to be banned from ringside, ban them from the entire ringside area. Okay, just keep it what you said it was. But as far as the match is concerned, I love that Mortos keeps showing us weird stuff. Like there was this flipping overhead DDT that he did as a counter to a back body drop That was insane. He got up on the top rope and then dove over Fletcher's shoulder and hooked him with a crucifix driver. Like the whole match was like this. It was insane. Back and forth, nonstop stuff. Fletcher, unsurprisingly, picks up the victory after running the boot in the corner. Didn't hit him with the corner brainbuster though. I'm wondering if maybe he thought that he couldn't do it because of how Mortos is built. Like they always put over, oh, Mortos is such a big guy, and he is for his size, but he's only what 5'11".
Mm.
Like he's not a tall dude. He's big for his size, but he's not like a giant. So I'm wondering if maybe he was thinking he was too compact and he couldn't hold him up there long enough, or
Mm.
something like that on the ropes, which are not level. Whereas he could do it in the center of the ring where it was, or more or less. So he just hits him with the stalling brainbuster in the center of the ring. 1, 2, 3. Uh, Given his card positioning, Mortos is probably going to be picking up a lot of losses in this tournament. But it'd be really nice if Tony Khan could throw him a bone and give him at least one win over somebody higher up on the ladder than he is, to kind
Mm.
of give him a little bit of momentum. I would love that for him. The crowd obviously adores the guy, even though he's with the LFI faction, which is, not everybody's cup of tea. I enjoy them, but they are a heel faction, and he's still getting cheered. So
Mm.
I don't know. I think that it would be great if you could throw him a bone and give him an unexpected win in this tournament.
Yeah.
Um, Adam Page versus Wheeler Yuta was really good too. It was weird how good it was given the odd heel dynamic that they walked into it with.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was offset though by more fans getting behind Page a little bit by a little bit over the course of several weeks, and the commentary team seemingly preferring to kind of paint Wheeler Yuta as the lesser evil. Like they didn't really talk crap about Page in this match like they normally do. They just kind of ragged on Wheeler the whole time.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if that's going to continue, or if they're just going, if they're going to lay off and like slowly turn Page back to what most people would consider a babyface role. Uh, he's still a babyface to me, damn it. Uh, but or if it was just to put over Death Riders as the ultimate villains of AEW right now. But it did help, that this could have very easily been the heel match where the commentators didn't have anything to say because they were both supposed to both be against both guys. Like this guy's a jerk. This guy's a jerk. What do we talk about? How they're both jerks. Like that
Mm-hmm.
that slows down them and really takes away from the enjoyment of the match from a viewer perspective. People in the arena don't care. They don't hear the commentators, but we do.
Yeah.
So I don't know. And as far as the match goes, Page was still selling the leg. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
Good for him. It allows Yuta to be in control of much more of the match than he probably would have been expected to be in control of.
Mm-hmm.
Towards the end, though, the rest of the Death Riders appear in the crowd as Page is kind of making a comeback. They just observe. They don't even interfere when Page wins. They don't even come down to help their guy. They're just kind of non-committal, I guess. And this, like, Page doesn't really know how to take it, so he gets out a chair and he threatens to do the same thing to Wheeler Yuta that they did to Chuck Taylor and Pillmanize him on the neck. Given his character, I'm not really sure if he would be willing to do it because it's just Wheeler Yuta. He'd be willing to do that to Moxley. I don't know if he'd be willing to do it to Wheeler Yuta,
Mm-hmm.
but he did at least bluff it, which brought Jay White out for some reason. Like maybe just because Page is, his arch nemesis or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But because he picks up Wheeler Yuta after chasing Page off with his own chair and gives the Blade Runner to Wheeler Yuta again to indifference from the Death Riders. I would say poor Wheeler, but I mean he's a big boy. He made his own decision, and he's living with these jerks who don't care about him. I saw somebody on Blue Sky um, refer to it as Wheeler Yuta is going through his middle school phase where he has a bunch of friends that hate him and he doesn't realize it. And yeah, it's kind of like that. Um, if I had one thing to kind of rag on uh, through this for this show, it's gonna kill me. It's gonna kill me. I hate to say anything bad about it, but the Outrunners versus the Iron Savages was pointless. It was point. I know. It's the Outrunners. I know. I love those guys, but
I love the Outrunners. I really don't like the Iron Savages.
you know what I did love about this match though was
Hmm.
their entrance because they tweaked their entrance to make it look like it was being on 1980s VHS tape.
Yeah, I
Like I
love that.
loved that, adored that, love it. And I feel like this was maybe they put them on TV simply to showcase the new entrants. I don't know because this match was short and was pointless, and this time could have been either given to lengthen the Layla Gray Mina Shirakawa match or give to two other women. Like,
Hmm.
so it just feeds into the problem of not having as much women's content as they should have either. Like, I love the Outrunners. I love the FTR and them doing the prayer handshake afterwards. I'm into all that stuff, but it's like there was no point to this
No.
when you have an ongoing criticism of how the women's division, how it's not getting enough attention, and you had an opportunity to address that again here, and it fell through
Yeah.
for an act that people like. The Outrunners are over, but like you know, I don't know if this was the wisest choice of time.
Hmm.
You know, so if there was one thing on the show that I didn't really care for all that much, it would be that. But then the main event happened, and Kazuchika Okada and Daniel Garcia had a banger. I was worried, really, going into this particular match, what they were going to do because both guys are champions,
Hmm.
and they did what I forgot they could do, and it worked out for the best. Garcia has a lot of early offense in. He wrestled with this huge chip on his shoulder against the greatest Japanese wrestling draw of the modern era, and Okada offers him his handshake for like beating him up a little bit and out wrestling him for the first 2 minutes or so. But he does like the Ric Flair thing where he takes it back and like slicks his hair back, and
Hmm.
Garcia just slaps him upside the head and just beats the crap out of him. And it did not go well for Okada. And Garcia's all over him for like several
Hmm.
minutes until they take it outside, and Okada he's down in the corner of the barricade there, and he goes to Aubrey. He's like, "Oh, I'm hurt. You got to call this off." And so as she's turning around, he sneaks back up, gets the chair, and uh, jabs Garcia in the stomach with it. Makes his miraculous recovery as Aubrey turns around. Oh, it's all good. Oh, my shoulder. Oh, yeah, it's I popped it back into place. It's good now. Great heel stuff. Um, from there on, it was pretty much all Okada. He had, it was just kind of an extended beatdown, kind of slow. The commentators uh, put it over as been like, oh, this is just the first match of the tournament. And these tournaments, these round robin tournaments, you're fighting every week a different opponent with different strengths and everything, and it's grueling. And he's the one who's defending his title here too. So more than anybody else, he probably feels the need to win this tournament. So he's taking it slow, to start so that he has the energy for the rest of the tournament, which I don't know if I buy that because these guys wrestle at it for every week anyway.
Hmm.
But but at least they were trying to cover it.
Yeah.
That being said, he hits all of his stuff. He had him in the money clip at one point, and Garcia got out of it. I like the money clip. Nobody else uses that submission hold, so I think it's pretty cool. Anytime he brings it out,
Yeah.
eventually he gets his moves to do, man. The body slam, the elbow drop, and he's going to go for the rainmaker as he stands over a prone Garcia. But so he's going to do the rainmaker pose, but instead he does the Garcia dance and brings the middle finger down to get him,
Mhm.
and it costs him. And Garcia wraps him up in an ankle lock. I loved that spot. It was great for Okada's character, who without the Bucks there, he has nobody to really play off of except his opponents. He's still cheeky. He's still a silly heel to a degree, but he's very much, I mean, he's still dangerous in there. He showed that in this match.
Mhm.
So I think it's this great melding without the distraction of the Bucks that often happens. Um, he gets taken down eventually and locked into the Dragon Tamer. Just as Garcia is putting him in it, the ring announcer's like, "There's only a minute left." I'm like, "Oh, they're gonna go for a
Oh,
draw."
yeah.
I completely, I love this tournament, but I had completely forgotten about the draw possibility. And this was the way to do it. This protects both guys. Garcia, they go to the limit. It looks like Okada's going to tap, but he doesn't. Time expires. He offers him a handshake again and then flips him off as he goes for it, leaving
Mhm.
Garcia just looking like, really? After all that, you still don't respect me? Like,
Yeah.
there's some legs down, even if it's not in this tournament. I think there's some legs down the line to revisit this between these two, and I, for one, would welcome it.
For
Just
sure.
really good, fantastic storytelling here, and it made Garcia look like a real player. He just went the distance with the Continental Champion himself. The greatest Japanese wrestler of a generation. So, I mean, you could certainly do worse. Big, big ups for that.
Yeah. It was a really good one. I enjoyed it.
But yeah, I'm done talking now. It's I mean, at least for a little bit, it's time for the hot tag.
Hot tag. All right. So for our hot tag
All
this
right.
week, we got War Games Survivor Series from WWE. I'm just going to go in kind of order of hotness, I guess.
Okay.
I didn't have anything I didn't like. The lull of the night was Gunther versus Damian Priest. Um, it was a good, serviceable match. It was really good, actually. The match itself was really good, but it ended when Finn Balor interfered. He did his stomp on Damian Priest on the outside, and then Gunther kicked his head off, and then took Damian Priest in, power bombed him, and pinned him. Up until that point, it was a great match, and it could have gone either way. But then Finn got involved, and I knew how it was going to go. And I'm not sure who's supposed to face Gunther next, but I'm guessing Damian and Finn are going to go at it. So I don't know what's happening here. I don't know if it's going to turn into a three-way or what. But this was kind of the lull of the night. It was kind of the only thing that didn't really deliver as far as a pay-per-view match of this caliber. Moving on from there, we had LA Knight versus Shinsuke Nakamura. Also really good. Much better than uh, Gunther and Damian Priest. And I mean, they were really hard hitting all night. And Shinsuke Nakamura picks up a clean win here and wins the U.S. title, which is wild to me because they've been building LA Knight as like this Gunther level U.S. champion, and now he's just not champion anymore.
It's
Um,
especially weird coming off like the whole like best of seven series for the last challengers, and even they couldn't get it done. And then all of a sudden, Shinsuke comes back out of from wherever he was, from the Twilight Zone or whatever, and all of
mhm,
a sudden he just knocks him off, no problem.
yeah,
Barely an inconvenience.
right. It was wild how just like simple it was. So then after that we had Braun Breaker and Ludwig Kaiser and Sheamus in a triple threat for the Intercontinental title. This was a banger from front to back, man. These guys
Yeah.
went and went. And like it seemed like Braun and Sheamus, neither one of them wanted Ludwig involved. Every time he tried to get involved or get in the ring, basically, they just would punch him or something and push him out and then go to fighting after each other. So it was a really good match. Eventually, Braun Breaker went for a spear, but Sheamus hit the brogue kick and he went for the pin and Kaiser pulled him out and then wailed on him with the shillelagh for what seemed like a full minute and a half or two. Just was beating the brakes off him with that shillelagh. And there's pictures on social media of what Sheamus looks like after taking that shillelagh beating. It's gnarly. But then he gets back in the ring, or Braun Breaker uh, shit cans Ludwig again, gets Sheamus in the ring, spears him, pins him, and retains. So Braun Breaker's still the Intercontinental Champion. I like Braun as far as wrestling goes. Um, his promos are a lot like his uncle's, so I'm still not sure if I'm a fan of him or not.
Which one? Oh, his uncle. Duh.
Yeah.
The,
Uh,
I mean, he did bring out Steiner Math at one point. I know
yeah.
that.
So, but with this was probably the best wrestling match of the night, bar none. I mean, they really did really well here. Um, Women's War Games. So we had Naomi, Bailey, Bianca Belair, Io Sky, and Rhea versus Liv Morgan, Raquel Rodriguez, Nia, and Candice LeRae and Tiffany Stratton. Io Sky was in this match, so 100% she put a trash can on herself and did a moonsault off the top of the cage. I knew it was coming because when she did her entrance, she literally had a harness on, and attached to said harness was a trash can. Like she came out
Yeah.
to the ring
I
like
mean,
that. So we knew that shit was happening.
yeah.
Um, but while she was doing that onto one group of people, Tiffany Stratton was hitting a stereo swanton bomb on the other side off the top of the cage. So cool spot. The match itself, up all the entrances before War Games actually began, when everybody was in there, was kind of eh.
Yeah.
But after that, the match itself was freaking awesome, man. They really got
Good.
violent. Great match. Face team picks up the win. They had the advantage too, so I didn't expect them to get the win, but they totally picked up the win. Then men's War Games. A lot to unpack here. First of all, I want to say Bronson Reed looks like somebody who could absolutely beat the brakes off of everybody and kill you.
Yeah, he does.
Also is super effective at getting his ass beat. He looked fantastic in defeat here. Just really taking the big bumps. Like, okay, so I'll just go through some of the big spots because this was just a spot fest from beginning to end.
Okay.
Um, at one point, Tama Tonga was going to kick. So it started with Tonga Loa and Jey Uso. At one point, Tama Tonga was going to come in, and Solo stopped him and put out Jacob Fatu. So at that point, when he did that, it was Tama Tonga or Tonga. I always get these guys confused, but it was one of the brothers and Bronson Reed and Jacob Fatu against Jimmy and Jey Uso,
Okay.
and they were just destroying them. Um, at one point, they had brought a table in. They lay everybody's in. They lay Roman Reigns on the table. Bronson Reed goes up to the top rope like he's going to do a tsunami and then climbs up to the very top. And he goes for a tsunami on Roman Reigns off the very top of the cage, and CM Punk jumps up and grabs Roman Reigns and pulls him off the table. And
That's
it
a
was,
long way
oh
down.
my God, it was such an impact too because of how big this dude is. Like, my God, it was insane. Um, We had at one point, so everybody's in except Roman. CM Punk cut Roman off and went in before him. So
Okay.
everybody's in.
Wait, can
So
you do that?
well, I mean, they were all in a
You can
cage,
do
just
that?
standing in one communal cage together, like they kind of
I
kind of like
thought
they
the
do on
like
Blood and Guts.
yeah, but I thought like the order was determined ahead of time.
No, in this case it wasn't. They were just whoever was ready to go or whoever they were sending.
That doesn't make any
Yeah,
damn sense.
and,
Just
I
put
mean, it
your
didn't.
toughest guys in
The
there at the
order
beginning.
the order of who win and win really didn't have any effect on how the match went. It was good all around.
You know.
Even that entrance part where everybody's kind of getting in it was good. But so they get to the end. It's so, like Roman's still in the cage. Solo is in the ring with everybody, so it's like 9 guys in the War Games, and Solo pulls out a chain and locks the door. And honestly, they played it exactly like I thought they were going to immediately. But the first thing I thought was, you're gonna lock the door and it's an open top cage.
Yeah. Like
And then Roman comes walking down the
what?
aisle and he pulls on the door and it won't open, of course, because it's locked. He asks the referee for a key. And the referee's like, I don't got a key to that lock. He's like, okay. And then he walks over and he looks up at the cage and he sees the part with the thick bar in the middle. And he
Yeah,
goes, all right. And he climbs it. And I'm like, no shit.
yeah.
um,
Like I mean, it's not normal for the heels to be dummies.
mhm.
Like I mean, I guess
So,
this just goes to show how dumb the new bloodline is.
um, they are really building Jacob Fatu to be a monster. He
Yeah,
was eventually put down in this, but CM Punk came in, and like all five of the guy, or all four of the guys are like it's the Tama and Tonga, Jacob Fatu and Bronson Reed are standing in the ring, staring at the door, waiting for CM Punk to come in because they've laid waste to everybody else. And CM
yeah.
Punk gets out there and he's like, "Nah, I'm not getting in." And it looks like he's gonna leave. And then he pulls up the apron and pulls out his good friend Toolbox from the
Ugh.
Drew McIntyre
Oh
fight.
man.
And so he
Oof.
gets in the ring and he goes to shit cannon everybody with the toolbox. Jacob Fatu comes running at him and he does this crazy like catch running cutter on Jacob Fatu and plants him face first to the top of that fucking toolbox. Pops up like he's about to do the go to sleep and Jacob Fatu pucks up right behind him
Ugh.
and is just shaking it off like, nah. And CM
Ugh.
Punk's like playing it up to the crowd. He's like, I'm going to make him go to sleep. And he turns around and Jacob Fatu takes his fucking head off. Bam! Like, oh, I was just like, oh my God, he got up from that. And then, like, he got up from that. What the? Because, like,
Yeah.
when he hit him, I said, what the fuck? And he was up so fast. He was up so fast from getting hit like that that I immediately said, what the fuck again? It was back to back, what the fucks. And I barely had
That's
time to get the first one out before I had to say the second one because I mean, he hit face first on that toolbox and got up immediately. Just pop back up.
well then.
So
Wow. That's oof.
yeah,
I mean
it was
that's
gnarly.
putting somebody over real good.
So I mean, it was a great match altogether. It was super violent. Sami Zayn showing out. Everybody who had to take an ass whooping took one really good, man. Like especially when like Fatu and Bronson Reed were in there, and it was like Sammy and the Usos, and they're just getting
Yeah.
thrown around because those are the three strongest guys in the new bloodline against like the arguably, I mean, because we have CM Punk in the equation, arguably the three weakest guys on this team.
Yeah.
Um, and so they're just like having it out. And then like once Roman gets in, like him and CM Punk look like they're about to have a little bit of a spat, and Paul Heyman comes running up to the cage. He's like, "No, no, 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 no! Tribal Chief, best in the world. If you coexist, great things happen." And so they both kind of were like, "All right," and they fucking.
Um,
That's the point where they had both teams lined up on either side of the ring, full on, and they're ringing the bell, and they just climb across the ring at each other and it was great. I mean, I love war games. I stand just the war games match. There doesn't have to be anybody in it. They could just lower the cage and have the camera on it for 5 minutes, and I'd be like, all right, cool. I love war games. I straight up bought and still have the old war games DVD set. Like Dusty Road, like I'm an NWA boy. Like that's what I grew up on. So
yeah.
war games was always my thing. I knew when the war games cage came out, shit was about to get settled like really settled. And now, but here's WWE. That this is okay. So remember, I said Gunther and Damian Priest had the lull of the night, and I didn't really want to talk about anything bad. Here's where WWE shot themselves in the fucking foot. Okay,
All right.
we get done with this War Games match. The guys are doing their ones up with Paul Heyman and CM Punk's doing his little go to sleep gesture. And Michael Cole on commentary says, the OG bloodline has won, but Solo Sikoa still wears the Ulafalu and is still the tribal chief. And I immediately out loud jumped out of my seat and said, then why the fuck did we even have this match? What was the
Mm,
point of this if it wasn't that Roman Reigns is going to come walking out tomorrow on Raw with a Ulafalu on and being like, I am the tribal chief. They be damned. We just went to war and we won. Like,
yeah.
What do you mean? He still wears the Ulafalu and they still the tribal. What the fuck do you mean, Michael Cole? And you know what? If I don't get an explanation for that, I'm gonna be pissed. And it either better be a damn good explanation or Michael Cole saying, "Okay, I'm stupid. Please excuse my mistake," because that literally, I was riding a high. He said that, and it killed it.
Yeah.
Literally 2 seconds before the pay per view goes off the air. I'm like, the people
Yeah.
in the arena feel amazing right now. Like they're looking at the OG bloodline on top of the world, like there's our tribal chief. But the people at home have been told, no, it is not so. I don't know
Yeah.
what. Okay, we offer constructive criticism on this show. Michael
Right.
Cole, you just shouldn't have fucking said anything. You should have just said
Um,
nothing. Literally, just let us bask in that moment with everybody doing their little hand signal as the pay per view goes off the air. It was literally 10 seconds. All you had
you
to
know,
do was shut the fuck up for 10 seconds.
yeah. Yeah, that sounds like that was probably ill thought out.
It was way ill thought out. Like, I mean, it was more ill thought out than Corey Graves talking about how hot he thought Carmella was before he left his wife.
Yeah.
It was just that is the literally of egregious things that have been done on commentary. That's the last time I could think of something so egregious. Like, so you should not have done that. But this wasn't even like a months long hindsight like it was with Corey Graves in the Carmella situation. It was a instant. Why the fuck did you say that? Like,
Well, he probably had
why?
somebody in his ear telling him that. I don't
Like,
think it was so much Michael
I
Cole as it was bad creative.
I don't believe that Triple H is in his ear like Vince was, and I say that because Michael Cole has in interviews since Triple H took over creative and Vince has been ousted from the company said no one is in my ear anymore, working me like a fucking puppet, basically.
Well,
So
that's not to say that. I mean, they still have headsets on.
I
Just
really
you still
wish
need to.
whoever made that decision, whether it was Cole or somebody in the back telling him to say it, bad, bad,
Yeah.
bad. I wish I had a newspaper to thwack you on the fucking nose for that one. Bad. Like you just peed on like you I cleaned like basically what you've done is you've made this beautiful tapestry carpet and then you've pissed on it. And
That
it makes me
sucks.
fucking mad, man. Like, and it's shameful to me that it's something so small that could
Yeah.
ruin something so big. Like, we have been building to this for fucking months, man. Like, ever
You know what
since
it makes
WrestleMania, like Roman returned and then he got the boys back together, and now we're gonna fight the new bloodline, and now we've conquered them.
you know
What do
what it
you
makes
mean
me
that means
think?
he's not the chief?
You know what it makes me think? It makes me think that they're gonna ride this all the way out to WrestleMania with Roman taking on Solo for the Ulafala and the title of Tribal Chief proper
I
for
hope
real.
so, man. I hope it's something along that lines. I hope we get an explanation like first thing on Raw, although I know it's probably gonna wait till SmackDown. But at the same
Yeah,
time,
yeah,
I'm just like, my word, guys, like you have this great event. I was riding like an AEW pay-per-view level high at the end of that show because it was so good. And then in the last 10 seconds, Michael Cole had to say something
yeah,
so dumb
yeah.
that I was like,
Um,
who the fuck let this guy have a microphone tonight, even though I know damn well he's got one every night? Like,
yeah. I mean,
I, I, that's the only thing I had to complain about really about the show, though. Like, Gunther and Damian Priest was the least good match on the card, which is not saying it was
yeah,
bad. It was just saying it wasn't as good as the others.
yeah.
And Michael Cole just had to ruin the whole damn thing. Um, so yeah, but other than that, though, if we take away Michael Cole's throwaway line at the end of the show, a fucking plus.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe that's a little bit of internal bias because I love a War Games match, and I really love two War Games matches. But everything about this show was enjoyable. I had a really great time. Thanksgiving Wrestling Saturday needs to be a thing. Like this always
Yeah.
needs to be a thing. Thanksgiving Wrestling Saturday because I have had a
Yep.
couple days off. I'm recharged. I'm like ready to take on something big. And my big thing that I took on Saturday was 7 hours of wrestling. And I
Yeah.
enjoyed every fucking second of it. So I mean, we were well fed this week. I think everything was good.
Heck yeah, we were.
WWE was super good this week. Uh,
I still can't believe how well we were fed. Honestly, like it's just it warms my wrestling heart.
Mine
I'm so
too.
glad the overwhelming, I wouldn't say it was 100%, but the overwhelming consensus online was that this was a very good week for wrestling. And I am a fan of very good weeks of wrestling for wrestling fans.
All right. Well, that does it for our hot tag for the week. So, like the veterans do, we're gonna call it in the ring now.
Yeah. All right. Yes, it is time to call it in the ring. We were going to do this last week, but the Continental Classic kind of being revealed to us kind of forced our hand in a different direction. Not necessarily forced, but definitely persuaded us in a different direction. So we're going to do what we are going to do last week now, right here, right now for all y'all. So coming off a full year, I thought it would be interesting to because the discourse surrounding the Costco guys' involvement at Full Gear was surprisingly divisive. I figured, you know what? What? How about we take a, a little bit of a closer look at some of the best celebrity appearances in wrestling events and some of the worst as well. Um, and that could be as part of a match, or as a Raw guest host, or anything really. Just if they were there, if they were involved in the product in some way, especially celebrities. Going back to the first WrestleMania had been very important for wrestling, and even really before then. For example, Antonio Inoki versus Muhammad Ali, which technically could be considered the very first MMA fight, if you think about it.
Yeah.
Boxer versus wrestler. It took place, I think, in 1975, 79, something along
Something like
somewhere in
that.
there.
Yeah.
But it predates Vince Jr.'s takeover of WWF by a good margin. So, like, celebrity involvement in wrestling has always had a place. But obviously, with Vince McMahon and WrestleMania and stuff like that, it came to take on a greater focus in building wrestling into what it is today. So they're kind of inextricably linked, whether people like that or not. And the success to which it helps is varying. And you don't really even, honestly, sometimes understand the impact that it's had until long after the fact. So I feel like, if something's egregious, yeah, call it out initially, right then and there. But if it could go either way, sit on it a little bit, see how the impact kind of unfolds. Um, there are a lot of people we could talk about. Uh, one of the first, one of the people that I want to make sure that we get in here though is possibly the one who got involved with it the heaviest and dove into it head first, Andy Kaufman.
Mm.
Like Andy Kaufman went completely method on it. Like, and this again was long before Vince Jr. This was in the Memphis territory in the 70s when Lawler was young and on top of
Yeah.
the world. He was almost as young as the girls that he dated at that
Oh.
point. Yeah, we're going there.
Grown.
We're controversial. No, but seriously, I don't think anybody in the history of celebrities in professional wrestling is ever going to match what Andy Kaufman did. He fooled everybody. He
Mm.
fooled the boys. He fooled the audience. He fooled David Letterman. Like, he almost fooled Lawler, who he was
Yeah.
actively working with, who was the only one who was really in on it. You know, aside, I mean, he was the promoter too, so it was really kind of only him. And
Yeah.
he was working Lawler half the time. Nobody went all in on it like Andy Kaufman did.
Hmm.
He was somebody who was controversial. It was somebody who blurred the lines to a point where people were really, really irritated with him. But like, he was a performance artist, man. He was just a performance artist bringing his brand of performance art to this other brand of performance art.
Hmm.
Like, it was, he understood it in such a way that eclipses, I think, even a lot of people who were in the business because he saw it for what it really was.
Yeah.
You know, where people, you know, he entered this world of kayfabe where everybody took it so seriously, and he took it so seriously, but from the angle of, yeah, this is a work, baby. I'm gonna work everyone. He was brilliant, absolutely brilliant, and probably doesn't even to this day. Even they made a movie about him.
Hmm.
They made Man on the Moon about him, starring Jim Carrey, and to this day, I don't think he gets the credit he deserves for helping wrestling the way that he did because he helped legitimize it because he took it so very seriously.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, and he was like, there were certain of those women that he was really fighting, like really off the street. He was picking girls he thought he could beat up, and he was really doing it.
Yeah,
And then he was working everybody past that point. Once he got a name going, he kind of worked the hell out of everybody. I mean, perfect example of a celebrity coming in and respecting the business and leaving it better
yeah.
afterwards.
Even if he left everybody irritated in his wake.
That's the best part.
Yeah, right.
Back when he could have, like, I mean, he did all that back when he could have legitimately been stabbed because
Yeah,
fans got that heated back then. Like, I mean,
especially in Memphis,
oh
because
yeah,
like
Memphis
if
was
you
a,
were work if you were working in Memphis or Puerto Rico, there was a very good chance you were getting stabbed if
mhm,
you were a heel
yeah,
and you worked that well.
a
Like,
better than average chance for sure.
yeah,
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, Andy Kaufman definitely goes on this list as far as
yeah,
people who did right by us.
yeah.
Um,
Who do you think was another good one?
Another good one.
Another good one. Then we'll switch to
I
bad.
mean, we'll go into the WWE era or the WWF era. Cyndi Lauper was fantastic for this
Oh
business.
yeah. Why is she not in the Hall of Fame already?
I don't know, but as far as bringing the business to national exposure and basically facilitating the success of WrestleMania 1, we have Cyndi Lauper to thank. She was putting wrestling superstars in her videos. She was super popular. She was bringing this shit to MTV. She was
Yeah.
taking wrestling and turning it from something that your grandpa watched into something that everybody watched. I
Yeah,
mean,
honestly
without
too,
her, I don't think anything's as near as good as it is now.
her pop star status was probably second only to Madonna at that point.
Hmm.
She was an enormous worldwide star.
Hmm.
Like, to have that kind of uh, endorsement, I mean, that was enormous. You know, that pairing with MTV would not have worked. I mean, it would have worked, but it wouldn't have worked
Hmm.
nearly as well without Cyndi Lauper's involvement.
Yeah.
You were absolutely 100% on the ball with this one.
Yeah. See,
100%.
not only was it like somebody super huge that people paid attention to who was paying attention to wrestling, thus making the people who paid attention to them pay attention to wrestling, it was also somebody who was, because like they could have done this with like, like, okay, let's say Liberace, who also performed at WrestleMania 1.
Yeah.
Um, they could have done this with only him, and even if they had the partnership with MTV in the same way, just with him, it wouldn't have done it. They had to have somebody in the partnership in between WWF and MTV who could swing a big enough stick and be like, look, you will pay attention to this. You will not treat it like a joke. You will be serious about this because I'm serious about this. And she took it seriously. She had a heck of a good promo for being like a very diminutive little
Yeah,
fireball that she was. I mean, just the like a lot like Kaufman, wrestling would not be in the position it is today without her.
100%.
And I don't think that MTV would have taken the deal or the partnership as seriously without her either. So it put them in a really advantageous position. And then on top of all of that, she respected the business and treated it seriously. She didn't treat it like it was some joke where she was coming in to make an appearance and cash a check.
Oh, she
She
got it, man.
she understood the assignment and yeah, so that's definitely my number one for sure.
Yeah. Uh, uh, you know, fun fact: my dad still to this day harbors a crush, little celebrity crush on Cyndi Lauper. I mean, I have my own, so I can't hold it against
Yeah,
him.
I can't
But
hold it
like,
against him.
I mean, I just think it's funny.
Mhm.
My mom thinks it's less funny. Uh, uh, going over to the worst celebrities.
Oh man.
Um, for a second, I honestly think that, man, as much as I get why they included him, but Kevin Federline, man, oof, oof, boof. Okay, so for our audience, I don't know how young our audience skews. We get numbers, we don't get demographics.
No.
So if you were a younger viewer, probably somebody younger than say
30?
25, 30, maybe even.
Yeah.
Kevin Federline was one of Britney Spears' backup dancers who wound up just kind of marrying her and just kind of on a whim and uh, having a couple kids with her. He was, I think he got the bad press he did mostly out of jealousy because Britney Spears was still super hot as a pop star. You know, her star was still kind of, and probably not on the rise, but it was still high in the sky.
Hmm.
And I think a lot of it came down to like, why is she with him? That whole jealousy, that parasocial jealousy thing. That being said, um, this guy parlayed that into an album that he tried to sell off of an awful single that tried to, I don't know what Popozão meant. It was supposed to be Portuguese for something, but I don't know what it was, and it was awful. It was like ear cancer. But to promote, I believe, to promote this album, he went and had, I think it was a 2 week stint on Raw, and they set it up the first week that the next week he would have a match with John Cena. And this was when
Oh,
John Cena was still kind of popular, not quite as divisive as he was. So people were really interested in seeing Kevin Federline get the crap kicked out of him.
yeah.
Unfortunately for John Cena, he was in a feud with Umaga. And Umaga came and laid him out. And Kevin Federline has a pinfall victory over John Cena.
Oh,
And it never really was answered. Like, I think he did like an anniversary show where he got an attitude adjustment or something, but like it was never like true penance,
yeah.
and it left him a real a real bad taste in everybody's mouth because like here's this John Cena, undefeatable John Cena, Superman John Cena, and the guy who has a win in the history books against him heading into his feud with Umaga, who you really could have argued was in a really good position to actually win the belt off of John Cena. Umaga doesn't have a win against John Cena, but you know who does? Kevin Federline. It was bad. It was real bad.
Yeah, it was
Uh,
super bad.
uh I just, no disrespect to Kip Sabian or Penelope Ford. It was super bad in the bad way, not in the good way. Oof. That when I think of bad celebrity involvement, that's what immediately comes to mind for me. What about yourself?
I don't want to talk about this asshole.
Well, I'm
goddamn
going to have
bad.
to insist.
Uh, the worst celebrity involvement with wrestling ever is Donald fucking Trump. I mean, not just the fact that
Yeah,
it was him, but it's a hair versus hair match that you know he's not going to lose. We knew off
yeah,
top he was not going to lose this match. But then, not only that, but they make his adversary in said hair versus hair match Vince, who they then shave his head for what is arguably the worst haircut. Then 2 weeks later, covered by a toupee ever. But it gets worse because the two wrestlers across the ring from one another are Umaga, who is the only good thing about this feud, and the suction cup of all charisma, Bobby
yeah.
Lashley. I,
Bobby Lashley is better now than he was back then, and he's still a black hole of charisma.
yes.
So let that sink in.
Yes. So I 100% hated this. I thought it was the absolute worst thing to ever happen in wrestling. And if I'm not mistaken, Mango Mussolini is in the Hall of Fame, is he not?
I don't think they pulled him. I
No,
don't
but
think
he's
they
in
pulled
there.
him.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So the fact that he's in there, but our aforementioned wonderful and lovely Cyndi Lauper is not, makes it even more fucking egregious.
yeah,
Like I hated this when it happened. It was way before this man thought about becoming president, but now in hindsight, it's even worse
yeah.
because of all the
This
Vince
is,
crap. Like I can only imagine
you know,
the feeling amongst the women backstage on the night that Vince and Donald Trump were in the same fucking building.
I
Ugh.
so
I
I
crawl and I have a penis.
I wholeheartedly agree with you that in hindsight it's even worse. I also agree with you that I did not care for it when it happened, but we are not we're not alone in that,
No.
but we're also not the only ones who feel a certain way about it. The opposite was clearly true because that WrestleMania 23 buy rate was through the roof.
Yeah.
Like, obviously, on the back of that match, it did add to the card a whole bunch of viewers that they probably wouldn't have had, which sucks in
Mm,
hindsight. But, like, it, the involvement was bad, but the results is what they wanted. So I feel
yeah.
dirty. And that's all I'm going to say about that.
Yeah. So that's where we're at. I mean, it's kind of for me, it's a Logan Paul situation. It's like, yeah, it gets eyes on the product, but at what cost?
What cost, man? And that's not at this point. That's not a Vince McMahon call anymore. That's
No,
a
it's
Triple H
not.
call. Well, probably a Nick
It's
Khan
I
call,
would bet
but
it's a TKO call overall.
yeah.
Um,
Ugh,
for
God.
them to say they have no hand in it and Paul's just running things with Nick Khan, I don't fucking believe that for a second.
Yeah.
Especially not
There's a
with The
lot.
Rock
There's a lot of
sitting on
people
their
making these
board now.
decisions.
The Rock sits on their board now.
Yeah.
I guarantee the overarching company of TKO has a hand in what's going on in WWE now,
Yeah.
especially with the stuff that we're seeing, like some of the stuff I'm seeing happen. Like, and now there's, please God, don't let it be true, but there's a rumor that Jake Paul's going to show up over here now.
Ugh,
There's
we don't
only
need
so
that.
much, guys. There's only so much I can take before this becomes an all AEW podcast.
Yeah.
There, like I love what I'm seeing on WWE right now, but there is only so much that I will put up with in my own morality before I'm like, I cannot, in good conscience, watch this shit.
Yeah. There's a line for everybody.
Yeah.
Everybody has one.
So
But
if that ever happens in the future, guys, remember y'all were warned. Those of you who do like to listen to us for your WWE reviews, I really appreciate you. You're listening. I love having you here. Maybe I'll find some alternate way to cover the content where I wouldn't have to watch certain things. But honestly, I there are rumors about things that might happen that I'm like, okay, there's a line here, and we're definitely going to step over it with me personally. And that's just me personally. I'm not going to begrudge anybody else if they want to watch the Saudi Arabia shows or if they're a fan of Logan Paul. If you want to be a fan of his, cool. But I would
he is
implore you.
irritatingly good in the ring.
He is irritatingly good in the ring, and
Irritate.
it's
He is so talented, and I hate it. I hate that he's
I hate that
talented.
he's so good. I hate that he because if he wasn't good, this would be a lot easier.
Yeah.
But he is good, and so it's irritating because okay, so I will just say this for those of you who are fans of Logan Paul, if you don't want to take my word for it, please do at least go check out the videos about him done by CoffeeZilla, who is one of the most respected financial investigators on the internet. The guy knows his shit. You will see exactly why I don't like Logan Paul and why I don't like his brother either. Um, but I'm not going to tell you you can't be a fan of that person. I will just point you to the stuff that made me not a fan, and make you make your own choices. But as far as as far as celebrity involvement goes, like I hate Logan Paul, but I still think Donald Trump was the worst.
I mean,
Just
at this point, we
bar
can't
none.
really even call Logan Paul a celebrity. We can't even put him in this category because he's actively part of the roster, even if it's part
Yeah.
time. Like we can't. That has to be a separate category.
Yeah. He's
Like
been the
we can't
US
include him in
champion.
this.
Yeah, we have to
Yeah,
put him on a list with people like oh well this list would include him and a dickload of fucking like mid 90s mid and late 90s WCW stuff like Carl Malone and Kevin Green and
yeah,
people like that. So
yeah,
because other than him, I don't know any like YouTubers who made the crossover. Because kind of before Logan Paul, it was all like the Jackass guys and Seth
yeah,
Green and like legitimate celebrities.
yeah.
Um,
I mean, what makes somebody a celebrity this day and age is a lot different than what we were growing up because the world is a lot different. We have
yeah,
to look at people from the internet world, the streaming world, and consider them on the same kind of level
yeah,
simply because they just because they involve themselves in a different medium doesn't mean that they're any less of a personality or anything like that. Which kind of leads me to where I was going with this. Honestly, going back to the best, I went back and I watched the 0 hour for Full Gear, and let me tell you, I did not hate the Big Boom AJ QT Marshall match. In fact, I really enjoyed it. I gotta say, I don't find Big Boom AJ and his family's shtick online terribly entertaining. I think it's kind of obnoxious, but this worked for me.
mm,
It was as good as it could have been. Like nobody was more surprised than I was. And I can tell you one thing: if the most viewed AEW video on YouTube in a long, 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 long time was the one where where Big Boom AJ comes and makes his intentions known to have a match. It was like 5 million views in like the first day, something ludicrous like that. You can't think of that as any plus the match, and that crowd was insane for them. You cannot look at that under any other metric but a huge success. I think this may be a controversial hot take. I know, like I said, this was very divisive, but this is kind of why I wanted to broach this subject. I think one of the better celebrity involvements was this Big Boom AJ guy. I truly
mm.
believe that. And you may have a different opinion, and I respect that. But
My
like,
opinion is simply this at this point. Okay, I understand the business boon that it provided. I think their social media presence is corny as shit. And
yeah, but I'm
so,
corny.
like, no, I'm sorry. Okay, look, I'm sorry, man. Okay, but
No,
here's my
we can agree. We
this
can
is
agree to
my
disagree.
whole
It's
gripe.
fine.
This is, oh yeah, we can definitely agree to disagree on this one.
Oh,
We will.
totally, totally.
But this is my whole gripe. Okay, you ready for this?
Sure.
They brought this man on Dynamite and he got heated over a fucking cookie. Okay.
I mean, that's their joint. That's their gimmick, though. The
He
big
the
double
whole
chunk.
freaking well, I get that. I
Yeah,
don't get that though because I mean I am a typical AEW viewer who does not
yeah,
know who these people are.
yeah.
So I don't know what the deal is with the cookies, but I also know that like I saw him come on Dynamite the first time I saw him because I wasn't seeking this stuff out on social media
Right,
to
right.
find out. Like I didn't know like I had heard rumblings of the QT and him having a match. But then he comes on Dynamite and he does this promo, and the promo is like, "We set this match up because you threw the double chocolate chunk cookies." Like, okay, so QT threw some cookies, and you're gonna beat him up now. Did he like crush him up into little particles and like throw them at your freaking kid or
No,
or the little fat one that I don't think is actually your kid.
he's
Um,
not. The Rizzler is not his kid. No.
okay, somebody needs to like check that kid's parents. I'm sorry. That's all I'm going to say about that. I'm not gonna say anything else because I don't want to be an asshole. But somebody
No.
needs to check that kid's parents. Okay. Um, but really, like we're having a whole match on a pay per view
On
because he
Zero
threw a
Hour, he didn't
cookie.
pay for
But
it.
did he throw them at your wife? Did he like spit them in her face?
So
Did he smack your kid? Like what did he do to warrant this level of hatred about a chocolate chunk cookie? Like, I'm sorry. Like, okay, so maybe I have worked it into such a ridiculousness in my head that it's now funny, but fuck, man. Like, what the
okay.
hell?
So I'm gonna say a couple of things. Number one, wrestling is silly.
It is. Okay.
Wrestling is silly. Even at its most serious, it's very silly. It's still half naked, oiled up men rolling around on each other. It's very silly. It's very gay. You just have to make your peace with that. Second thing, AEW did not go out of its way. Again, going back to what I said earlier, they don't. They need somebody else running their marketing department because they did not run this the way that they should have. I know it was just for the 0 hour, but like literally all of the development was online, and then like 1 or 2 episodes of Rampage. This, which nobody watches. So I had to go digging to find this. So apparently they did like a contract sign. They'd shown up at, was it all, what was it, all in or
Mhm.
all out? It was all out. No, it was all in. It was all in because of stateside. And wait, which one's the all out? It was all out because it
Yeah,
was the
because it's
second
all
one.
in and then all out.
Right. All out.
Yeah.
They were there, and they were just being there, doing like special guest stuff on the 0 hour. Uh, Apparently, he was a wrestler on the indie scene in like the late '90s and early 2000s. Then he retired, but he came up in the scene with QT Marshall, so they were
Okay.
friends from before.
Okay.
Fast forward 15, 20 years, whatever it was, and they're doing this stuff with AEW, and QT goes up to Tony Khan and is like, look, he never got his moment on TV to have a match. He didn't, with WWE or anybody else. WCW folded before he could get enough notice from them, too. So uh, he's a friend of mine. They're hot on TikTok right now. It would be, let me have a match with them. It would get a lot of eyeballs. So they set this thing up, and it was like all online where, they played off that friendship, but then, so he signed, they had Big Boom AJ sign like a one night deal with AEW to have a match to fulfill his dream. And then he looks at QT. He's like, "Yeah, we're gonna do this together." Like, oh man, I can't wait. Who are we gonna face? It's gonna be you and me, ride or die. Who's it gonna be? It's like, you didn't look closely at that contract, did you? It's not you and me teaming up. It's you versus me. And that's when he swats the cookies away and walks off. So
Ah,
it's
okay.
so it's and they built it up a little bit over, but it was like very like grassroots. Like they didn't, which makes the views on it even more impressive
Hmm.
because like they didn't do a good job marketing this, and it still got a ton of views, and it still got them wicked over in that arena.
Hmm.
Like, was it the Prudential Center? I think
Yeah.
they were hot for everything. Everything. And that match was like 12, 15 minutes long, a lot longer than I thought it was going to be. Like, and you wouldn't know it, but I guess Big Boom AJ had a broken foot going into the match.
Yeah.
What,
That is one thing
I
I'll
didn't
say.
catch it. I
In the
didn't
in,
catch that.
no. In
Like,
the interest of staying positive, like, because I know I've been kind of overtly negative about this whole thing, but in the interest of staying positive, I didn't expect a 48-year-old man with cheek filler to work a match with a broken foot. And
yeah,
so, and I know just from a referee standpoint what it's like to work hurt. The fact that you've been out of the ring for 20 years and worked with a broken foot, and from everything I hear, because I didn't watch the match, but everything I hear had a really good match with QT Marshall.
Yeah,
Good on you. If you hear this, bro, good on you. I'm not hating just to hate, okay? Like I didn't understand the build. I don't understand your stick. I'm not a big fan of it, but I'm not one to be like, we don't like we were talking about last week. We don't just denigrate people who are talented just to denigrate them. No,
yeah.
you are talented, and working with a broken foot is a hell of a task
I
because
can't even imagine.
everything, dude, it's everything. Like literally
Yeah,
everything he did had to be nerfed by that broken foot because that's everything you do, whether you're
just
bumping or
stand.
not. It all involves your feet. And the way
Yeah,
you place your foot placement is always very important. And to do so with a broken foot, props.
and to not give it away. He no sold it like crazy. Like I didn't know that. I just
Yeah,
found
I
that
saw a
out
lot of
because
people
he
saying that, like, I didn't know he had a broken foot. He couldn't have told,
nobody
you know,
knew. He didn't tell anybody because he was worried that it would have
but
blown
they
his
would have
chance
said
to have the
no.
match.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
like I mean I hope he really didn't exacerbate things for himself, but I wouldn't have been able to tell.
no,
Like I thought honestly did an excellent job.
yeah.
Excellent job.
By all accounts, that's what I hear, and I got to give him props for working on a broken limb.
Yeah.
I mean, that's fucking hard, man. It is. Working on an injury is hard.
Yeah.
A break. I I've never worked on
Especially
anything broken.
there's so many
Oh,
bones in your foot too. So
oh
like even
yeah.
if one is broken, like it just affects all of the other ones. And it's just
Oh yeah.
ugh. Ugh. I can't even imagine how painful that must have been. And he put the smile on his face and went out there and wrestled a 15-minute match.
Yeah.
Unreal
You know what?
toughness.
To his credit, I'll give the guy points for honesty because he straight up told everybody that he broke his foot in a workout the day before.
Yeah.
I would have totally played that shit off and said I broke my foot in the ring, so Tony Khan paid for whatever it was.
No,
Which I'm
yeah.
sure he still probably will because Tony Khan, by all accounts, is an extremely kind and nice person.
Yeah.
And I mean, like literally, by all accounts that I've heard, he's like an extremely
Yeah.
kind dude. So
Yeah.
I imagine he's probably like, yeah, I'll take care of your foot getting fixed. If you got to have surgery, we'll take care of that. We'll cast you up and maybe we'll see you back on the show again because it did so good. But yeah, I mean, like I totally would have been a little less honest than that guy and be like, nah, I broke it in the ring
Yeah.
on this
Mhm.
particular move and just picked one that hurt me a lot, you know.
Yeah.
And just because I know the company would have picked up the bill at that point, but like that's just me like being that like, oh crap, if I'm not working and I did this not at work,
Yeah,
you know,
that's the grind talking. That's the
that's the
American
grind
grind.
talking. Yeah. So
Yeah,
I mean, so big props to that guy for at least even after the fact being like up front and being like, no, I broke it the day before and just
yeah.
decided not to tell anybody.
Big
Like,
ups,
yeah,
big
big
respect.
ups to that. That's
That
respectable.
shows that shows integrity, and that's
Yeah.
sorely lacking in all sorts of everyday life. Really,
Yeah, it
lately.
sure is.
Is there anybody else that you wanted to talk about before we wrap things up?
No, man, I think that's pretty much it.
Either good or bad?
I mean, I'll give some like, I mean, special mention on both sides to Mike Tyson because the
Yeah,
DX angle was dope, but he also slept through a Dynamite
yeah.
with the TNT title in his lap. So,
It evens out.
honorable mention for Mike Tyson being in both
Slash
categories.
dishonorable mention.
Yeah, slash
Uh,
dishonorable.
I'll do the same then. I'll give the couple people I was thinking of honorable mentions to Bob Barker, who did a
Okay.
fantastic job, probably the best Raw host. His
Hmm.
stuff with Jericho was brilliant.
Yeah. Okay.
Um, and one of the few people to almost make Chris Jericho break character too. That's an achievement in and of itself. Um, a Stephen Amell too. I wanted to bring up.
Oh gosh,
Definite
man.
fan, super hardworking, kind of I have kind of an issue with him because he was kind of a scab in the recent writer strike, but um or the SAG strike rather. But as far as his in ring, he was part of the original All In. He had the match prior to that with Cody Rhodes and Adrian Neville. Like I thought, heels. He got off the ground. Heels wouldn't have been made if it wasn't for him.
Mhm.
Like I thought great
And he's
job there.
great in it.
Yeah, I mean he's I've seen only one episode, but I think he's better in that one episode than the entirety of Arrow, and I liked
Him and
Arrow.
CM Punk are great in it, man. It's a good show. You should check it out if you haven't watched the rest of it.
As
It's so
far as
good.
dishonorable mentions go,
First off, before we move on to that dishonorable mention, hashtag bring back Arrow Club. Proceed.
uh, where's though LeVar Ball? I thought he went
Oh,
into business for himself, and it was just awkward and trashy, and just
I
ugh,
despise that man with a
he's so
level of
bad.
disposition. I hate him. I hate the
Ugh,
way he exploits his kids. I just
yeah,
don't like him at
it's real
all.
grody.
It is. He's just a scumbag, and you can fucking tell. It's like
Um,
Beyonce's dad.
Jeremy Piven sucked.
Oh God, he was
Sorry.
terrible.
The Summerfest.
Yeah,
Boy,
I don't.
I will give him props for doing that crossbody off the top rope when he had acrophobia. I'll give him
Yeah,
that
I'll give him
because
that.
that takes guts. But
But Ari
oof,
Gold, he was not.
no,
No.
no. It's like Ken Jeong. I love Dr. Ken. I love Dr. Ken. But he was paired with Jeremy Piven here, and he didn't really add anything at that point either.
No.
So, and then the last one I'm going to mention, dishonorable mention, Art Donovan. How much does
Uh,
this guy weigh?
oh God, Art
Why would you
Donovan.
put somebody who doesn't know a damn thing about pro wrestling on commentary for a
Mike
whole
Adamle,
night?
anybody? Jeff
Oh my
Harvey,
gosh.
y'all.
Mm.
God. Ugh. And you know what? You know what was so bad about that? When they brought Mike Adamle on, here's my last dishonorable mention. When they brought Mike Adamle on, I was like, I love American Gladiators. This is gonna
Me
be
too. I
awesome.
thought it would be great.
And then Jeff Harvey. That literally that's all I remember. Jeff Harvey, guys.
But
Ah,
honestly, though, can't he's not in the same category because they
no.
employed him full time.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
at
that
that point you can't even technically include him in this category.
yeah, I
Though
guess
I
not.
will always take the opportunity to rip on the decision to hire that guy because
Yeah.
oof,
Yeah.
oof, baboof.
Somebody else
What
in
are
the
we
office
doing?
thought American Gladiators was cool as I did. That's all there was to it, man. Because if I'd have
And
been
it
in that
was
guy's
cool.
position, I'd have hired the son of a bitch too, and then I would have been like, God, that was a fucking dumb move.
Yeah. Well, they figured it out quickly because they made him. They took him off commentary and tried to make him a general manager for ECW, and it did not work
Yeah,
out.
that didn't work out either. But ECW, WWE ECW didn't work out at all. It was
Yeah.
garb,
There were
hot
some
garb.
highlights,
I mean,
but it
there was
wasn't.
CM Punk and
Oof.
John Morrison and
Durag Vince was kind of funny the
he
first
who
time you
shall
saw
not
it.
be named that was the
Yeah.
champion there for a little bit. But yeah, other than that, like I really don't. Yeah, it was
Yeah.
not what I wanted as a ECW guy. So
Yeah.
yeah, but that was pretty much it for this week.
Yeah.
So remember to check us out on the socials, guys. Join us on Blue Sky for the conversation in between this week's episode. Have a great week, and we will see you next Monday.
Yeah. Come back and join us next week, and we'll talk about whatever we feel like.
As always.